Welcome to Agri-Pulse Newsmakers, where we aim to take you to the heart of ag policy. I'm your host, Lydia Johnson. We're bringing you a special edition of the show this week from the World Pork Expo. Over 10,000 producers and industry leaders gathered in Des Moines, Iowa, for educational sessions, business meetings, and to explore the latest technology advancing the pork industry. Students also discussed top industry issues in the Young Pork Advocates Issues Meet competition. Plus, there was no shortage of pork to enjoy. Over 10,000 meals were served from the big grill alone. During this episode, we'll hear perspectives from the farm gate and the boardroom about the biggest topics at World Pork Expo, including how producers are making decisions amid tariffs, Proposition 12, and the state of the pork economy. First, the House passed its reconciliation bill last month, which included many Farm Bill elements. We asked Bryan Humphreys, the CEO of the National Pork Producers Council, about the pork priorities included in the bill.
As the House version passed, things around our three-legged animal health stool, as we work to prevent and prepare for foreign animal diseases, were all included in it. Very appreciative of that. Also fortunate as we've had conversations with House members on the need for foreign market development dollars to be included as we work to promote U.S. pork products in our export countries. Those dollars were included. Incredibly appreciative of that. And then not just for the pork industry, but for all of agriculture, the tax package that was included, that included things on 179 deductions and bonus depreciation, estate taxes, all those pieces included benefit all of agriculture, certainly the U.S. pork industry specifically. And so some tremendous opportunities there for the U.S. pork industry.
And Senate Majority Leader John Deniz said that he's hoping to push that through his chamber by July 4th. What changes do you anticipate in the Senate?
From our request around foreign animal disease and foreign market development and protection of rural America and American agriculture on the tax package, we don't anticipate any changes. Those are all things that senators may have questions about, but we can certainly address the need and the value for rural America and American agriculture and the American consumer in each of those. So I'll certainly open the conversation. Don't anticipate any changes there.
One Farm Bill component that was left out of this quote-unquote reconciliation Farm Bill is a legislative solution to Proposition 12. Mm-hmm. What legislative avenue are you looking at to pursue that in the future?
Absolutely. And while we have to acknowledge that while in the budget reconciliation bill, a number of quote-unquote Farm Bill programs were included, they weren't all included. And that leaves a number of things out there. And to your point specifically about Proposition 12, still needs to be addressed. And whether it's a skinny Farm Bill or some other vehicle, we have to have a solution to that, not just as the American pork producers, but as American agriculture. This idea of states regulating outside their border is not going to stop. And at the end of the day, this is a states' rights issue. The state of California should not be able to tell producers in Texas or in Pennsylvania or in Iowa how to raise their livestock or produce food. If those states want to do it, no problem. But regulating outside your borders is still Congress's authority. And so we expect a solution coming quickly to that.
The Make America Healthy Again Commission recently released a report that criticizes some modern agriculture practices. I want to get your thoughts on the report and, what producer input was utilized to develop that.
Yeah, first, I'm not aware of any producer input that was utilized to develop that. And I think that should be a concern for all of us as we talk about one of the most robust, healthy, safe, and affordable food supplies in the entire world is the U.S. food supply. And that was brought to you by American agriculture. And so to not be included in any discussion around the food supply should certainly raise some questions and some concerns for folks out there. The underlying premise of Make America Healthy, everybody agrees with that. We don't disagree with that. It's how we get there and what does that look like. We certainly want to be at the table to help with that conversation. There's been some positive parts in there. We have to acknowledge that for generations, pork producers and livestock folks have been talking about the value of meat as part of a healthy diet. And this report certainly alludes to that and brings some of those pieces in as a nutrient-dense protein. Certainly some value there. But the questioning of the scientific validity of the overall food system certainly raises some concerns for me.
And as we transition a little bit to trade, China is one of the top importing pork countries around the globe. How have the tariffs and uncertainty around international trade impacted U.S. producers so far?
The answer to that question is in the markets. We have seen an up and down in the futures market this entire year that has created some real uncertainty for our industry. But as we move forward, there's certainly tremendous opportunity in the Chinese market. But also, as this administration looks to diversify where our exports are and where the opportunities are, we look forward to continuing the conversation with them around places like Vietnam and other countries that create a potential opportunity for us out there.
We'll be right back with more from the World Pork Expo.
These are the farmers and ranchers who help build the America we depend on, and Farm Credit is here for them, supporting rural communities and agriculture with reliable, consistent credit and financial services. In good times and bad, we provide loans to farmers and ranchers, farmer-owned cooperatives, rural home buyers, agribusinesses, and rural infrastructure providers. We help agricultural producers feed the world. Learn more today.
I think some of sustainability to farmers just comes second nature. If you asked a farmer, are you sustainable? They'd probably look at you maybe a little funny and say, I don't think I'm doing anything that special, but it really is just what they do. We're all farmers, and our goal is taking the best care of our land, our cattle, our natural resources.
This is my sustainability story.
Welcome back. Kevin Stuckey is the sow division manager for Cooper Farms in Ohio. After a few challenging years in the industry, we asked him if farm country is beginning to see some relief.
I think there's definitely some optimism with what we've seen here recently, in the markets. And, when everything with the tariffs and all that started, it was scary because, like you said, it's been a rough few years. But I think we're finally starting to see the benefit of that. And there's definitely some optimism growing.
And export markets account for a pretty significant share of U.S. pork demand. How are the threat of tariffs and that uncertainty impacting the decision making, back to the farm level?
Well, on the day-to-day basis, I feel like, with our company, Cooper Farms, Jim and Gary and their sister Diane, they do a great job of probably shouldering that burden of the tariffs day to day so that we can really focus on our employees and our animals and taking care of them. But, it's on everybody's mind. There's no question because, like you said, we rely heavily on the exports. And, I think 28% of what we produce is exported. So, if we want to have the long range success and keep doing what we're doing, we got to have those exports there. So it's been concerning, but definitely I think starting to go the right way for us.
In addition to that, input costs like feed, fuel, and labor have been volatile. What do you see as the biggest challenges to pork production right now? I mean, what's the hardest thing or the biggest challenge for you to continue raising hogs?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned a little while ago, the health, animal health, herd health, that's paramount. When you have good markets and good production, everything's really great. Like for the last few years when the markets haven't been as good and you don't have good production and you don't have good health, that's when things get really, really critical for us. So, just being able to maintain healthy animals, safe farms, the biosecurity, even the struggles we've had with the employees. And, last year with the TN visa situation, MPPC really came through for us. We've got our visa workers coming in again. The labor situation can be tough at times. And, thank goodness, we had those people working for us to get that issue straightened out.
You kind of began touching on labor, but, Congress has yet to make progress on ag labor reform. How is that affecting your farm and affecting, producers at the farm level?
Yeah. So a year ago right now was when it was really getting tough for us. We had lost our flow of the TN visa workers and, Bryan and the staff at MPPC, I think they worked tirelessly, and actually, got people out to the farm level so they could really see what was going on. And we're really able to change that for us because it was getting to a very tough, critical level. It's hard to get people, the local people to come in for these jobs anymore. And our TN workers have been fabulous. It's a great part of our company. And thank goodness we've got that going again.
And you began to mention animal health with the threat of foreign animal diseases, always kind of lurking in the background. What diseases specifically are you monitoring right now? And how are your state's producers staying prepared?
Yeah, so, PRRS is at the top of our list. And, PED's right there behind it. It's been a tough year, I think, nationally, statewide for both of those. And, within our own company, we have poultry also, so we have definitely felt the effects of the bird flu and the high path AI, and looking at what they've learned from that on the poultry side. I think that we as producers, as pork producers, should be taking note of that. And we've done preparatory stuff for African swine fever. That's one of the big ones. But I really think we have a lot to learn from what they've gone through on the poultry side and how they've reacted to the high path AI, and we need to work as producers to model some of that. And let's get going on that now with PRRS and not wait till we get something like African swine fever where we have to test that.
And, some excitement here, some discussion about this PRRS resistant pig, the genetic testing. What excites you most about those technologies and those advancements?
Yeah, I was just talking in the trade show with somebody about this, and the word that comes out is that would be a game changer. And for somebody who's really we've battled PRRS for 5 or 7 years now. I would say it's not a game changer; it's a life changer. Just having that peace of mind of not having to worry about PRRS. I can't express how great that would be, but it's something that really has to be thought through. There could be supply issues. There's obviously the acceptance of the genetics. So it's not to be taken lightly, but I think we really need to do our homework and make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Congress hasn't passed a full farm bill since 2018, and it's looking more unlikely to happen as some of those elements get rolled into reconciliation. What's your message to lawmakers that, do they need to still continue to push for this?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, they've got a lot on their plates and there's a lot going on. You just can't, we can't let that farm bill continue to get pushed back year after year, and, seeing, some bipartisan help, going across the aisle, getting that passed. It's not, it's not only just for the farmers, but, as you feed people and the neediness of the food programs that go with that farm bill, we need it. We need it bad. If you look at Prop 12, what we're trying to do there and trying to keep it uniform and consistent, make sure we've got like a good level playing field for everybody on that.
We'll be back with more Newsmakers right after this.
Trial lawyers are using a discredited report from a World Health Organization subagency to attack a safe, American-made weed-fighting tool. This critical tool helps keep your food costs down, and without it, food inflation could double. Stand with American farmers and keep trial lawyers' greed out of our farms and food supply. Fight back. Call your local representative.
Register now for the 2025 Agri-Pulse Food and Ag Issue Summit in California. The event will offer participants a full day of presentations and panel discussions. You can hear from members of the California Legislature, food and agriculture leaders, along with industry experts and academics. This summit takes place June 10th in Sacramento and through our virtual experience. See the latest information and register with the QR code on your screen or under the Events tab at agripulse.com.
Welcome back. The pork industry suffered one of the worst economic years on record in 2023. We asked Chris Ford, the VP Corporate Swine Lender at Farm Credit Services of America, if the industry has recovered.
Right now, if you look at the industry, you look at what Iowa State's kind of already put out as far as the first half of 2025, it's been very strong. We're seeing returns. We've seen our cost structure get more in line. Corn and soybean meal have come back down into levels that make it more profitable for producers to have a good year in 2025. And so as we think forward into the latter half of 2025, very, very optimistic around the potential. If producers can stay healthy and lock in some risk management with their animals, it's going to be an exciting year for most producers this year.
And the farm credit system finances many of the top pork producers in the U.S. What changes have some of these producers undergone, or are they planning, to weather this? It's really challenging economic season.
Yeah. So we have the opportunity to be involved with 28 of the top 40 producers across the nation. So we have a wide breadth of perspective as we look through what producers are doing well and where there's areas to potentially improve. And so one thing that we like to try to do is help producers bring perspective, what we're seeing across multiple operations. And what we're seeing is guys implementing technologies around biosecurity and risk management and how they're able to produce pigs efficiently. And it's been good so far.
And are you seeing more producers, pulling back on expansions or delaying upgrades because of those tighter margins?
Absolutely. It's been an area where We talk about new finishers haven't been put in place for probably 2 or 3 years now. So guys have really pulled back on their capital expenditures. We're not seeing a lot of new sows being placed into the industry, which is probably a good thing because we're at a pretty decent sow number right now. Don't need a lot of new sows, but as guys are looking at projects, they're looking at asset utilization. And so if there's assets that need improvements or need to move to a more biosecure location, those are some of the decisions that producers are making right now as far as, do I improve the site that I have here? Do I shut this site down? Do I move to a more biosecure location? When you think about the cost of construction, think about the cost of money, those are big decisions for these guys.
And, animal health is still very top of mind. Look at all the threat of disease. How is that impacting producers' their economic decisions?
Right. I mean, production has been challenged at best. PRRS continues to be very prevalent in this industry, and whereas we see systems that are dealing with, in some cases, 20 to 30% death loss in sow units when we have a PRRS break, and so it's highly challenged. And production is always top of mind for these guys because the more pigs that we can produce, the better bottom line we can have. And so when we think about biosecurity, implementing technology, filtration in sow units, all those things kind of go into the decisions of what do we need to do to produce as many pigs as possible and gain the most efficiencies.
China is one of the largest importers of U.S. pork. That's just one of the countries that purchases so much. How are these companies weathering the uncertainty of tariffs as leaders continue to negotiate those trade deals?
Risk management's key. And again, you can lay off risk through either insurance products or using the Board of Trade to kind of lay risk off and find opportunities to lock prices in. But again, tariffs have created a lot of uncertainty. And so guys continue to watch their bottom line, have good financials put into place so they can know what their cost of production is. And if you know your cost of production, then you can make sound decisions and know when to pull the trigger as far as risk management and try to lay some of that risk off. And so again, tariff talk continues to be strong. We're watching closely what happens in Mexico. They're a significant trade partner, especially in the pork world. Expansion that's happening in Brazil and some of the downsizing that's going on in Europe right now. All those things we're watching very, very closely as we're moving forward.
And for the producers listening and trying to plan for a pretty uncertain future, I mean, you said it's on the up and up, but an uncertain future, what's your advice for staying financially resilient over the next few years, over the short term?
Yeah, it starts with a good set of financials and just understanding where you stand, and not looking at that just on a one-time a year basis. You need to continually look in on your financials, your cost of production, know where you stand, know where you need to improve. And it's important to work with lenders and consultants that understand the ebbs and flows of this industry. We at Farm Credit believe that we are experts in this industry. All we do is swine in our team. We have a team that's dedicated to swine. And so that's all we see. And so we bring that perspective, the areas where guys can find opportunities and where they need to improve.
I'll be back with more Newsmakers right after this.
I think some of sustainability to farmers just comes second nature. If you asked a farmer, are you sustainable? They'd probably look at you maybe a little funny and say, I don't think I'm doing anything that special, but it really is just what they do. We're all farmers, and our goal is taking the best care of our land, our cattle, our natural resources.
This is my sustainability story.
It's not as simple just to wake up one day and go, I want to be a conservation farmer. You're changing how your farming practice is done. You're changing your operation.
Farm Credit supported John and Kelly Watley as they shifted to more sustainable farming, improving the environment where they farm and live. Learn more at farmcredit.com/climate.
Welcome back. Kylee Deniz is Executive Director of the Oklahoma Pork Council. We asked her about the sentiment of producers in her state after a challenging few years in the pork industry.
It has been a hard recent time, right? We came out of a pandemic and into the hardest economic times for farmers. And in Oklahoma, the one thing I love about our farmers is they just are optimistic, right? Always cautious, but optimistic. And so we try to keep that lens out of the Oklahoma Pork Council as we serve our farmers, that we want to be optimistic, but cautious as this world continues to change on a very quick pace.
More than a quarter of U.S. pork production is exported. With the recent tariffs, how have you seen producers in your state change their decision-making with the current trade uncertainty?
Sure. Well, in today's world, it's a 24-hour news headline, right? And a tariff yesterday could be a different tariff tomorrow, or there could be a delay in the tariff. And so our farmers are just really leaning into what's going on a national landscape, because that ultimately impacts what they're doing on the farm. In Oklahoma, we have a big pork production plant in Guyman, and a lot of that product is going abroad. And so we're feeling it on the farm level, we're feeling it at the plant, and just continuing to really try to stay in the loop as to what's going on from a trade and tariff perspective.
Have you seen producers change how they operate or how they're investing in response to all the trade uncertainty right now?
Yeah. I have an ag background myself, and I love the ag mindset, right? You just put your head down and you work hard. And I haven't seen immediate changes by our farmers. However, we know that there's things to be watchful of. But at this time, right, the concept of just like head down, work hard is really proving to be valuable as we navigate this landscape.
The threat of foreign animal disease is always in the background. What are you monitoring right now, and how are your state's producers staying prepared?
Our farmers continue to grow and get better and learn more. And the biosecurity on our farms, we are a big sow state. We have about 450,000 sows. And so biosecurity has never been more important. And we applaud our farmers for taking that so seriously, but then also thinking through some of the different ways in which feed moves or pigs move. If we were to experience a foreign animal disease, we have a better plan. And we hope it never gets here. We hope that we and our partners are doing everything that they can to keep a foreign animal disease like African swine fever out of the U.S. But in the event that there is one, we have done our preparation in Oklahoma.
There's always a number of issues taking shape at the state level. I'm wondering what's on your radar in Oklahoma right now?
Sure. Well, Oklahoma is Oklahoma Pork Council, one of 42 state pork associations, and our job is to serve the industry, and that means protecting our farmers' freedom to operate to promoting pork as a product. And in recent times, we've experienced this uptick in animal opposition, or opposition towards how pigs, in our case sows, are housed. And so we have been really focused on protecting our farmers' freedom to operate through better telling the ag story, to also supporting our legislature as they are doing things like pass significant initiative petition reform bills at our state legislature.
Looking at those state level issues, what are pork producers doing, or what can they do to stop those opposing bills? Oklahoma is not the first and certainly won't be the last to address these type of issues.
That's right. The voices that we're feeling in Oklahoma, the actions we're seeing are similar to those that were in Denver, right, with their ballot, or in Sonoma County. And to your point on where are they going next, who knows? But we're working together with the National Pork Producers Council on the policy side, the National Pork Board on the checkoff side to share the farm story. And then, of course, being the state pork association, it's really up to us to think through who the people are in the state, what coalitions can we build, what relationships are important, as we really think through like farmers and what the future of farming is in the state of Oklahoma.
From the national level, although some Farm Bill elements were included in reconciliation, others still remain on hold to be addressed in a complete Farm Bill. What's your message to lawmakers about the importance of still pushing ahead to pass another Farm Bill?
Yeah. Well, the Farm Bill is a big bill, right? And there's several things that are in the Farm Bill that matter to agriculture. They matter to any person that's at the World Pork Expo today. And for us, they range from the foreign animal disease preparedness to the trade programs to a Proposition 12 fix. Those are all important, and those happen through the Farm Bill. So we need a Farm Bill.
We'll be back with a look at the week ahead right after this.
Trial lawyers are using a discredited report from a World Health Organization subagency to attack a safe, American-made weed-fighting tool. This critical tool helps keep your food costs down, and without it, food inflation could double. Stand with American farmers and keep trial lawyers' greed out of our farms and food supply. Fight back. Call your local representative.
Register now for the 2025 Agri-Pulse Food and Ag Issue Summit in California. The event will offer participants a full day of presentations and panel discussions. You can hear from members of the California Legislature, food and agriculture leaders, along with industry experts and academics. This summit takes place June 10th in Sacramento and through our virtual experience. See the latest information and register with the QR code on your screen or under the Events tab at agripulse.com.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Agri-Pulse Newsmakers. Next week, both the House and Senate will be in session. The Senate will continue working on their version of the budget reconciliation bill, which Majority Leader John Thune is aiming to pass before the 4th of July. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins will testify before the House Ag Committee on Wednesday. The congressional baseball game is also on Wednesday in Washington. The World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates report will be released Thursday. And the Agri-Pulse Food and Ag Issues Summit is Tuesday in Sacramento, California. You can still sign up in person or virtually to gain insights on water issues, the ag economy, and perspectives from the California capital. For Agri-Pulse, I'm Lydia Johnson. Thanks for watching.
Newsmakers is a production of Agri-Pulse Communications. You can also find our new content on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow Agri-Pulse and our correspondents on social media to get breaking news and more. For agriculture, trade, food, environment, and regulatory news, your source is agripulse.com.